today we are talking with Oksana Vovchenko, and we discuss the role of the personality in history.
I would say even person.
A person, okay. Would you like to present your opinion on that?
Yes, the idea of this topic is from overestimation or underestimation of role of a person in historical processes. At school, we learned history as a political history where great leaders played great roles. Now, recently, we hear more about scientists, writers, even singers. What I would like to discuss today is does any person play a role in a history? Or history dominate the role of the person?
Yes, it's a very old, question, and why it's very important for now. We will not avoid this elephant in the room. The behavior of your president in Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, has changed the course of history, and that's very important illustration how the personal decision, which is made despite all the odds, and actually is significantly changing how the history goes. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but at the same time, looking at Putin, for example, what I say that the matter is not in Putin. There are bastards in any culture and in any nation, but not everywhere they get power, right? So the matter is not in Putin. The matter is in society, which gives him this power.
That's correct. Yeah, that's why I'm not saying that Putin's example is more towards the role of the
let's discuss it both.
We can discuss. I agree with you that probably with Putin is an example that he is less the proof of the importance of the person, certain person in history. We can easily imagine that if not him would be appointed, the general direction of the development of the Russian society would be probably the same. Probably there would be temporary leaders, but sooner or later they would come to the similar way of leadership. That's why I want to return to discuss to the proof of the real game changer, who actually did something unexpected at all, based on his background, based on every possible expectation. History is a very cruel thing. History doesn't like to look at the small people, little people. History is interested in huge events, war, peace, nation building. And sometimes there's a contradiction between what the person is doing in terms of historical importance and how it is reflected in lives of ordinary people. And and I can say a very disturbing thing, that if we actually cancel out his heroism and plot what would happen if he would act as he was expected to do, the Kharkiv, Mariupol would be standing where they stood. Hundreds of thousands of people would be alive now. And you will jump on me and say, no, but that's the fact. And it could have been a peaceful transition. Let's say in 5 years, this guy would die, Putin, and the new political powers would come to the power, and the new Gorbachev would come to the power, and without even one shot, the Crimea would come back to Ukraine, and nobody would die. Such scenarios we have seen before. There are peaceful transformations. And it's a very serious question whether colorful actions of bravery that makes history interesting are actually very good towards the ordinary people that live their ordinary lives. What do you think?
For us Ukrainians, it's not a question. We know that we would not survive during these 5 years because Russia anyway would practice genocide against us.
But
this
they didn't do it in Crimea. They didn't do it in Crimea. They didn't.
We sure. This is our position. This is what we expect from Russians, and this is what we know about them. We are here to eliminate Ukrainians at all. So it was not a question for us. We would not survive during 5 years. It was not possible.
Anyways, if we compare to Alexander Makedonsky, if we compare with other personalities in history, yes, it's a very strong personality that we are witnessing right now. But unfortunately, as a result of these things, we have a lot of casualties, a lot of destruction, and a lot of suffering. And I suggest to measure the historical events based not ideology, not philosophy, but the well-being of ordinary citizens. Because I truly believe that the head of the state is just the maintenance guy, the property manager, whom we expect that the electricity will be provided, that things will be clean around, that people will be able to have food security, shelter, and all the basic needs met. And believe me that the property management that does not involve himself in adventuristic fights with the neighbor property management is better for ordinary people rather than the one that does. It's true not only about the management of Ukraine, it is true about Russia, which we surprised, huge country, a lot of opportunities, rebuilt Siberia, built the new cities with so much money that Putin was getting. He could have transformed his own country into the paradise that everybody would like to join. Everybody would be standing in line saying, can we join you? We want the same thing. Yeah. But such a disastrous decisions that have been made, even with Crimea back then, even with, let's see this scenario. Okay, there was Maidan, he didn't interfere at all. He said, Ukraine is a sovereign nation. We have nothing to do. They will make their own decisions. We will not interfere. Okay, your change would be made not under the anti-terrorist operation that you had to run with the Nets. You will be more focused on joining European Union. It was all about joining European Union and not about war, right? The last Maidan, nobody expected any war. Crimea would be developing as a part of Ukraine. And Russia would be developing its own country. How different these 8 years would be? Okay, probably Ukraine would join NATO. All right. NATO would deploy their weapons all around Ukraine. So what? So what? They have Baltic states that are in NATO, and especially with our time, we know that the distance is not that vital anymore. Yes, the border of Ukraine is 300 kilometers from Moscow. Yes, if you do the successful blitzkrieg, you can arrive in 3 hours with the speed of 100 kilometers per hour on the road, right? But why would anybody do this? Why would anybody do this, right? If everything is peaceful. Very good example how Norway separated from Sweden in 1905. The Norwegian parliament just wrote a letter that Norway is no more the part of Sweden. And that's how they separated. Nothing happened. Nobody went to war. The same Soviet Union. We all expected this. What's happening now, I personally expected 30 years ago. That's why I left Russia, because what's happening, it's like a civil war. Look at our videos. On both sides, people speak Russian mostly and have a very similar background. They studied in the same universities. A lot of Russians studied in Kharkiv. My mother studied in Kharkiv, and vice versa. So yes, it's that's the problem. We don't want the person to be the one upon whom depends the development of history. Even if this development can have some positive outcome in the future, but still, we want the society stable that do not require exceptional personalities to change the course of history. What do you think? We're actually talking about the same thing, like you said. When everything is all right, you don't need heroes.
Actually, I'm for heroes, and this is what really lack of today. We do not build narratives with heroes. This is how we used to tell history before. When we told historical narrative, we use heroes and heroism in it. Contemporary history doesn't do that. Or we select heroes differently. For us, heroes become different, like artists or singers or any person from media, for example, just blogger, for example, somebody who has his page attractive. The kind of heroes changes.
Yeah, that's a good
but
example.
But at the same time, What I observe now from Iranian, I would say, revolution, or I do not know how to call these events, current events in Iran, that the girl who just put her hair together, right? She is now the hero of the revolution. And her image, just this photo with hair like that, become a symbol.
Yes, we all know that people should not be forced, should not be suppressed, and but still there is a problem that I have declared the problem even before the war started, and you didn't like much my video back then, where the video is called "How to Prevent the War." And I'm building the situation that there are two potential enemies, and there is the third party that making sure that the war will start. And I didn't find I did not find the solution. Like I always bring this example. We are friends with you, right? But if after this video, our mutual friend will send the message, Krieger said that you're an idiot. And then he will send me the message that you said the same. The probability that our relationship will be affected is very high. And if this will be persistent, it's very probable we will not make videos anymore. So the one who would like us to stop doing this shouldn't fight us, saying, stop doing this, we will persist, right? But to make us enemies will be very efficient way how to achieve certain thing. I know this is the part of the Russian propaganda that everything should be blamed on NATO and America. But we cannot see the whole picture without seeing their role in whatever have happened. I still have in front of my eyes those days of early after Maidan days, when the same guy, Joseph Biden, is coming to your country, sitting with your government in the head of the table and giving instructions what should be done. When Nuland, the telephone conversation that has been recorded, is dictating that Yatsenyuk has to be chosen for to be the prime minister, whoever he was. So the involvement of the United States after Maidan and their involvement in this situation is huge, tremendous. And it's a very legitimate question what these guys are doing in the country, which is on opposite side of the globe from their country, why they're interfering in those things. And we are asking the question, what they do in other parts of the world. And you will see that their adversaries, which is European Union, Russia, and China, is getting surrounded by countries with unstable political situations. Just take the marker and draw the lines, red lines, where there were instability, the change of power, the colored revolution, and you will get also North Africa, Syria, and then it will continue to Ukraine and Belarus, and it makes European Union surrounded with huge inflow of the refugees, instability. Now this crisis with petroleum, with oil, with natural gas. Such a fight there was against the second North Stream supply of gas to Germany and Europe. Americans were pressing so much to deprive Europe from the supply of the natural gas and insisting on buying this natural gas actually from them as well, shipped by the ships, which is way more expensive. So we can see those economical, political, geopolitical interests that are served by this painful and very disastrous historical event as we are witnessing now between Ukraine and Russia. So not blaming it, not seeing it, ignoring the fact that a lot of things has been ignited by the third party is just leaving us in the situation where we cannot actually find the true roots of the problem. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I have connection problem and I have to reconnect. Let's stop the video. I try to connect once again because I hear you probably not very well. I'm sorry.
So, Oksana, the question is, can we ignore the involvement and interests of the third party in the conflict?
Of course not. Of course we can't. Many factors are involved, not just the interest of other parties, even other parties, I would say, but we also have to take into consideration climate change, for example, and even processes in space somewhere very far from us. Everything matters, and actually nobody knows what played the bigger role in processes and even in our decision making. Just imagine there was just a magnitude or some storm or something like that. The person stood up in a bad mood, and it was the sense for his decision making process. And the entire history went differently after that. Yes, and the role of the third party is important, of course. We have partners, we have enemies, we have alliances. Yes, right. And at the same time, we do not know what plays bigger role: economics or religion, for example, material things or immaterial things. Everything matters.
It's it's a pity that there is no restraint. Whatever the enemies are thinking of each other, you should not kill people. You should not make war. Do whatever you want. Just do not kill and do not make war. It's a very simple rule that we are trying to preserve within any particular society, but we have a very big difficulty to avoid on the global scale.
But can this rule go one way, actually? If both sides have the same values not to kill, it works. But if one side doesn't have this value, it kills. Can you still continue not to kill? Is that possible?
Yeah, but isn't that the rule for the robbery? If someone is trying to rob you with a weapon, it is advisable not to try to resist. Then you're saving life. And it doesn't matter what happens later, the things can change. Whatever you have lost can be retrieved. But for the time being, the politics, I believe that the politics is the art of saving humans' lives. And it doesn't quite, like your friends, for example, this America, it looks like they're trying to preserve the conflict without letting you to win. It's like they're trying to boil Ukraine on a small fire, you know? Now we can see that, for example, if the special forces of Poland and even NATO would be involved, and the full range of weapons would be available, there won't be the Third World War. We see how they allowed you to do offenses on their territory, on Crimea. They're not ready to, like, the help would have been way more efficient and way more decisive. And it's not very innovative to blame Putin and Russia. Everybody is doing it, and they deserve all the blame that we can have. But we need to see that some friends, they're not quite friends. They're just might be using lives of your country and people of your country towards their own purposes. And without pointing out those things, we are living in a virtual reality which has nothing to do with the real reality. Because these guys actually brought the situation towards what is happening now. Like, if you live and your neighbor is crazy and drinking individual, you will not communicate with him. You will not provoke him, right? You will try to do certain things to prevent very bad consequences. It's like security of your own family and your own life. You cannot change your neighbor. You cannot go away. And he is how he is, right? You can certain way to predict how he will behave. But needless to say that there was a lot of provocation during the whole period. Like it wasn't very right time to declare that Ukraine will aim to get nuclear weapon, which they use again as a reason for their moves and all other things. I believe that Zelensky is not a good politician. He's a heroic man. He's a strong personality. He did change the history of your country. But it's very important how this country will be after the war. We now have this illusion that everybody got united, one nation, and you will be building the Switzerland where the Ukraine is now. But after the war, it will be almost completely destroyed economy. 13 million of active people that have left, I don't believe that many of them will come back. So the country will be devastated, and no matter how much money will be pumped into this country, you guys still have the same people that used to steal everything that was coming to this country. You didn't take them out. You didn't they were not killed during this war. They will be stealing everything that is coming. And also, we believe that some of the Western guys, they are using the ability to receive this money through Ukraine. Like when you send something to Ukraine, you can benefit from those that steal this money and paying you back. You cannot see it in like in the United States, it will be very difficult to investigate. And that's exactly what the history of Zelensky started with, that everybody have learned his name when Trump called him asking for the dirt and the information about the affairs that Biden had with his son during his work for Burista company. You might say, oh, it never happened. And well, probably it did happen. Probably someone is benefiting from it. Probably after the war, Ukraine will remain very poor and very problematic land. Also, Russia probably will get destroyed. It will turn into a numerous number of independent little states that will engage in war with each other. Probably the Westerns will come in again to take power of over all the resources again. It's a nightmare, guys. It's a nightmare which makes happy somebody else, not you, not your country. And it's a devastation that have happened, and we cannot ignore that. We cannot just ignore that. We cannot say it just Russian propaganda. They're talking about it all the time. It doesn't remove any responsibility from them, but this exists, and this power is beyond the reach of the conflict. They do not suffer from any consequences that happen. They do not have any losses, right? Everything they do, they do in order to create huge problems for European Union and China. And they do create these problems. Look at China and India, how they pressed on Putin that they would end the war. We can only imagine how much pressure they have because of this war, because the same source might be pressing them with threatening to introduce the secondary sanctions for interaction with Russia. And what is secondary sanctions is actually the huge blow to their economies, India and China. And we all have seen what a trade war has been taking place between US and China quite recently, and it's going on. So, guys, without seeing all this as a general picture, we tend to be manipulated into false hopes and false vision of the situation. Don't you think so?
Yes, right. I do not idealize the war at all, and I have no illusions. Here in Ukraine, we understand that the real war is between China and the United States, and Russia is the victim of this war, and Ukraine is one layer under that, and our lands engaged. And being an economist, I understand economic ground for this conflict, what we call shell revolution in English, сланцевая революция in Russian. We say that's a new technology to get oil and gas from shell lands. And now we know that entire Ukraine, the whole territory of Ukraine, is a oil and gas land, and it is closer to Europe than Russia, and the transportation cost will be lower. So there's economic ground for this conflict, and we know that. Yes, but we are here today not to talk about economy in history, but the role of a person. And what is important for me now, the question why Russians do not do rebel. This is something not understandable for us Ukrainians. We would rebel. Being on their place, we would rebel. And this is exactly what is going on in Iran. Yes, it's
I have
Dagestan right now. Dagestan is rebelling, but Russians, they behave like vegetables. I mean, on the level of personalities, people do not resist at all. And this is the role of person for me in the history. They are passive.
Okay, let me think about it. Kadyrov recently disclosed how many people are involved in suppressive powers in the hands of Putin. 5 million. So he has an army of 5 million against his own people. And he engaged only the army of 200,000 against Ukraine. So he has a bigger army against of his own people than he actually had for the outside war. And in such situation, I'm talking with you, I'm talking with a lot of Russians. They have three choices: to leave, which they do, and then they express openly. You don't find a lot of those who left that would support or don't say what they really think. Another choice is to protest, which will be very short because they will be put in jail. And the third one is somehow to involve the way how they think and speak to align with the general line of the government. And I have this function all the time when I'm speaking to Russians who sit in Russia or to those who are on occupied territories. I'm very cautious in what I say because I'm sitting here in Canada. I have no chance to be affected, almost no chance, but they have this chance. And there I'm trying to be loyal as much as I can in order to allow some communication, especially public communication. Not to support, of course, but play the same rules that allow to continue communication, which I do believe it's very important. So blaming on Russians that they are not active, I don't think that it's a good idea. I think that any people that would be put in the same choice, leaving or complying or protesting, will mostly choose either leave or comply rather than protest.
But you see, this is a consequence. Now 5 million people control 140 million people, right? Well, 135 million people.
Divide 145. It's about it's 30. It's just 30 people. If you have the automatic weapon, it's 30 bullets in the round.
When did that start? When did that start?
What?
When did that start? How? They have got to this point. They were passive at the very beginning.
Yes.
They were passive at the very beginning, where it started. And many people explained Russia that you should not do like that. You should not let those reforms which Putin did let go. You should not resist at the beginning of the process, but not at the end. They were passive, and what they have now, the result...
They were not. In 2011, they were very active. The protests were huge, huge protests. The problem is that the protests themselves not really bringing the change. You know, when there is a loyal, like Belarus, they have huge protests, right? And so what? The same power, same Putin and the
Yes,
same...
that was a strategy, and this is the example when the third party did not help. They could, but they didn't. And this is exactly the example of what you tell, do not kill. So this is the scenario of Belarus. The third party did not help. They have what they have. They could not resist by their own. They did not receive help from abroad. So now they live with Lukashenko in dictatorship on Russia's side, there where they do not want to be.
You know, what else is...
But they are alive. Yes, they're still alive. We haven't killed Belarusians.
Look,
should it be so?
you remember when the Soviet Union disintegrated, we all believed that West will bring better life. But now it's not necessarily what happens when these democracies are introduced. Like before the war, Ukraine was quite a difficult country to live, and there were huge problems in economy, in politics, in influence of oligarchs that had their own armies almost. So also when you say that people has to overthrow Putin, but if you talk to them, not now, but 5 years ago, let's say, they would say that they don't have complaints. They live better lives, they have better opportunities, everything is developing. So they don't have personal reasons to believe that if they overthrow the strong power that they have, that their lives become better or secure. Of course, now when he got to this dead end with mobilization, with with everything else, people actually protest, but they protest in an effective way. We heard that over 200,000 people left Russia, the males, right? 200,000. If those people would get on the streets, it would be huge protest. But they have 5 million to suppress it.
And a very large territory which you cannot control from the age to age. It's not so big power as you may think, really. If you start protest in every city, those 5 million would not be enough to suppress.
But again, you believe that the protest can bring to change. That's not the case.
In Russia's case, yes, it changed nothing, because after Putin there will be another person who will be exactly the same. I think that the next leader of Russia will be exactly the same. Maybe at the beginning he will behave slightly differently. 5 years later,
in order to get sanctions off, yes.
Yeah. This is the problem. But the mistake was not about rebel against Putin itself, but about building a scheme. The problem is now Russia do not have mechanism to cancel this power, to change the leader.
Look at the people that go to conscription, to mobilization, conscription. Everybody is surprised why they are going. And I think I understand why. It has nothing to do with Ukraine. It has to do with their lives. This male people, this men, they're bored. They are self-destructive. Like they don't care if they get killed. Their life is routine, that they want to change this routine. They have these wives that doing them the brainwashing every day. They don't have good income. And here they have an opportunity to change their life, some
They
advantage.
don't have work at all because many factories are closed.
No, Ukraine is saying you will arrive, we will bombard you and you will die. And they will regret when they will arrive. But right now, the reasons why they do this is mostly the personal reasons. It's an opportunity for them to also
to escape their personal hell.
Personal hell, yes. And like it said, when everybody is dying, it's not so scary when you are dying. And also, it's an opportunity to think of yourself as a hero. All of a sudden, you were some lousy drunk in your 40s, 50s, with their life expectancy of 50 something on average for men in the province, that were going to die anyways in 2-3 years because of cirrhosis of your liver. And here you die like a hero. I also believe they will be drunk 90% of the time. I do believe.
Yeah, and they are.
And free booze, also those promises of a lot of money, forgiveness of the mortgages and all that stuff. That's the reason. If they would send in them to fight in the Central African Republic, they would go the same way. It's nothing about Ukraine. Really. They are not your enemies, but they will be when they arrive. But it's not really have something to do with Ukraine either. And when we're talking about those reasons, the self-destructive reasons, and how the people feel about it, and general idea of the enemy, all the propaganda, we find out that they don't want to resist. There is nothing to resist. Yes, mothers and sisters and wives, they don't want it, but they don't have these balls like in Dagestan that they had to go out, and actually now we don't know what will happen in Dagestan. If Russia retreats and says, okay, let's leave the Dagestan, it can lead to other provinces saying, you know what, get off our soil. And if they insist, they can have the local war with those that don't want to go to war, right? So, yes, I do not understand. I think that as we can look at Putin's behavior, he does not think that he is in danger. He does not think that his regime is in danger. I think it's our illusion that he has to understand how he's in danger. No, he doesn't think so. I had a funny idea that I want to share. Maybe if he would get those referendums and got no, 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 he would say, okay, sorry, people don't want, I'm leaving. That would be an interesting turn, to make referendums as an excuse to leave. Okay, everybody wants to Ukraine, okay, bye-bye. And blame it on people. Of course, he will not do this, though. Ukraine did a lot of things that provoked this war. Cutting off Crimea of the water was provoking them to go towards Kherson and open this. I do believe that we need to stop punishing people that just live in their ordinary lives. Again, the heads of the states, they are the property managers that's supposed to worry about the well-being of the people. You don't suffocate the whole region that used to be part of the Ukraine, depriving it from water, from electricity. There is a huge bridge that has been built. It's a very important infrastructural thing that can be used for decades. And we are discussing right now when we are going to destroy it. So if we objectively looking at the things, which has the logic during the war, it has no whatsoever logic from the point of view of what is barbaric, to build the bridge or to destroy the bridge. Destroying the bridge is barbaric. I'm sorry. What was his purpose?
It's taken out of context.
Again, these people that influence the history, they are coming and going, and bridges, they remain. And when we compare it to Hitler war, Hitler really wanted to do the genocide. His theory, his ideology was to exterminate, to enslave and kill. These guys, they didn't want neither to kill, to exterminate. They wanted to come. No.
They do. This is exactly what the ideology of Russianism is. Russianism is exactly
kill the
about
Russian,
that.
We can. That's what is happening. That's what is happening now. That's what is happening. That's what is happening now. But originally there was no such intention. There was no such intention. It was counterproductive to their idea of Russian law.
If they had good intention, they would not come at all. There is no good intention when you invade another country. There could not be a good intention.
The problem is they don't think that you are another country. That's the problem. They don't think that Ukraine is a separate country. The same thing is with Americans towards Canada. They don't think that Canada is a separate country from US. When they come here, they say, when they refer to US, they say, this country. I say, it's not your country. It's an illusion of a big brother that treat the smaller neighbor as a part of themselves, especially because of the similarity between Canadians and Americans, at least superficial similarity. In our mind, of those who were born in 70s and in 80s, and mostly 60s and 50s, Ukraine is not other country. It's the part of the same, and also that's the truth, because up until now, especially those eastern parts, they are speaking Russian, having the same mentality mostly. It's very difficult to separate in the mind the sovereignty of the country, because you can make borders anywhere, like Odessa. You can divide Odessa by Deribasovsky Avenue and say this is the border with one part of Odessa and second part of Odessa. By doing this, you will not separate people that live in there. They will be the part of the same mental. Yes, if this will happen for many years, the generations will change and they will treat one part of Odessa and another part of Odessa as separate nations even. The same is here. The problem is the generations didn't change yet. We still have in our mental that Odessa is part of our living space, not Russian living space, but it's the living space. You cannot imagine that Odessa has nothing to do with you. It's a value that for everybody who is Russian speaker is part of this Russian speaking mental world, right? Can you imagine Odessa cast away from this world? Zhvanetsky cast away from this world? Everybody who is speaking like Odessa, right? So that's also the problem, because we can declare that 1,000 times it's a separate country, but until the generation will change, it will still in our mentality all the same, all the same. And it sounds like absurd, absolutely unacceptable why they are fighting, what they're fighting about, what different purposes the government has to have, except giving the pension, supplying the ability to do the business. What you are destroying these cities for, infrastructure for, what you are fighting about. What are you fighting about? Ukrainian nationalism or a national idea? It doesn't exist in the minds of people that were born in Soviet Union. You can say thousands of times, but it doesn't exist. And that's the problem of the whole situation, which we see as unnatural and inexplicable. Like Arabs and Israelis, we live there on the same streets. We work at the same places. We do all the same things. But all of a sudden, they are separate nation and Israelites are occupants. It's the same thing. Trying to impose the ideology and to explain the reasons why the people have to suffer and kill each other. And we cannot support that, because if we go that way, we will always end up with more and more war. And I'm not blaming it on Ukrainians. I'm not thinking that they could have done anything different or whatever. Yes, it's a danger that Putin has outdated, very dangerous, very aggressive intentions, which he was not voicing before this war very clearly. And we didn't think that he is such an idiot that really wants to do the world domination, to take back all those countries, Baltic countries. And it seems like that was his plans and since long ago. And yes, we can say, yes, this guy is deeply wrong. And it will be very good if this politics will not persist anymore. But I do believe, as politicians, you will be less popular, but you will more useful if you save lives. If you do not stand on the grounds to be heroic and okay, you won the war. You took Crimea back. You took Donetsk and Lugansk back. Okay, let's imagine. But Putin is back there. And he is preparing. In 5 years, he is doing this again. So where is your victory, guys? And next time he will do it.
Why we strive to destroy Russia at all?
You cannot destroy Russia by your troops, guys. You
yes,
don't,
right.
you don't have the ability to go to Moscow and to destroy the power. No, you don't have that power. So the victory that you think is a victory is not a victory, because you will you remember this history of the Punic Wars, where Carthagena was fighting with Rome for centuries. You will just have the very strong and very angry enemy besides your border, even in the best scenario. You see? So,
okay, what will be in the case we lose the war? How many victims will be after that? If it stops the aggression at all, or if there is otherwise motivate for the aggression, and there will be even more
what
victims
about
in the
what
future.
if in a year the asteroid will hit Earth and kill everybody? The principle here is live now, die later. Doesn't matter what will be after. Now everything has to stop. Everything has to stop. This pretends, and it depends on your hero, Zelensky, because in the first days of the war, he was given reasonable propositions to delay the decision about Crimea, to promise not to be in NATO, and other propositions that were more or less acceptable. Now he doesn't want to go to anything, and this actually continued to destroy the country, the lives of the people. This mobilized people that will come. You will not be able to kill it all at once. You have to be very, very rich in firepower to kill that many people that would be disseminated, and they all will be shooting you as well. So yes, it's very nice for the textbook of history. Zelensky will be remembered as a national hero. And the schools and universities and airports will be named after him. But when we look at him as a politician that supposed to make sure that he makes retreats when it's needed, and then he exploits the opportunities when it's possible. Politics is the art of possible, all right? And this guy is not a politician. He's a hero, and it's a trouble when we have heroes in the head of state. The same with Lincoln. Lincoln is national hero, but at their time, when he was a president, there was a civil war for 4 years. 600,000 people were killed. What for? Even if it's about slavery. Okay, all those slaves were liberated. The economy of the South was destroyed, and those slaves actually started to have level of life worse than that when he were associated with their farms and other things. So when you analyze those things, for the time being, 600,000 people in civil war were killed. He is good for history books, for printing on the money, but he's not good for people that live in the time when he is in charge. That's what I'm trying to say.
So here we have come to the point that ideas matter, and ideas live actually in person and in personality.
Yes.
Personality is a great source of historical change.
Inability to see we understand that he has to be brave. We understand that he is exceptional leader. We are very surprised because we think this guy is weak and easy to be bought and just a jester, some clown. No, we really enjoy looking at him, how he handles the things. But again, it's nice for the movie. but it's not nice for the life. I think any day this war is going on is a disaster. It has to be stopped, especially you are on the edge of the nuclear war. This guy on other side has the ability to destroy the whole world. It's obvious that if we stop this irritating situation for him, we will make the world secure. And for natural causes, he will leave us and there will be another generation of the leaders, but the world will be saved. By continuing to provoke them, continuing to dance on the verge, on the edge of the Third World War, is no good. It's really no good.
Of course, what provokes more, strength or weakness? Weakness may provoke even more than strength.
We are talking about right now. Right now, I believe that the war has to stop for all the reasons possible. Just stop. The war has to stop. And whatever happens later,
Ukrainians, we would stop. We are ready to stop. Just go away from Ukraine. Take away Russian troops from Ukraine, and the war will stop. We are not going to continue at all.
Yes, I want them to take away, but they don't want to do this. But it doesn't matter. It has to stop. Things can change. They can change in a year. They can change tomorrow. But right now, everything is in such huge danger. This situation is so dangerous that any prudent politician would want it to stop.
I agree. I agree with you, especially in the idea that if all the forces unite, we will stop this war in one day, actually.
But yes,
the civilized world has this strength.
You know how I would say,
but they prefer Ukrainians to fight the war by
I will say metaphorically. Let's say that Ukrainian nation is getting born in this war, okay? Metaphorically. The long birth is dangerous for the baby and for the mother.
Yeah.
You need to give birth at the stage that you are now, not to push it until the baby is dead and the mother is the world, is dead. You know?
Yes, right. Here I agree with you absolutely.
And not like so many times people signed the peace agreement, and then there was a revolution in Germany, for example, 1917. Lenin signed this Brest agreement and lost huge territories, including Ukraine, by the way, to Germans. But in 1917, the Kaiser was overthrown, there was a revolution, and they took everything back without fighting, actually. And if he wouldn't do this, you see, it doesn't matter that he previsioned that or not. The real politics. That's why Kissinger, that you jumped on when he said that the Ukrainians have to make concessions, territory concessions. And then he changed his mind and said, no, 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 no. But he's a very old politician. Territory concession is not permanent. It is not. Like the same, if you're watching the movie and terrorists have kidnapped someone's daughter, you follow what they want because they can kill this daughter, right? So you say, okay. And then they can be caught and the daughter will come alive. But if you will insist not to cooperate with them, they will kill it. And Kissinger has a very long time politician, he understands that such situations, they have to stop, and then we'll see what happens. Either the donkey dies or the sultan dies. You know how it is. And that's the problem with, and interestingly, Zelensky now, he is not free to make these decisions because he already influenced the nation that will not accept this decision. It will be his political death. But almost always the president of war is changed after the war, like Churchill, for example. Those who win the war, they are changed on the next elections anyways. So, I don't know, the good excuse or, yeah, that's the problem.
We cannot demark the age between person and society. Society created person, and person influenced the society.
Yes.
Right. And now we are one entity influencing one another.
That's true.
They say there is a Putin and there is a collective Putin. There is Zelensky and there is a collective Zelensky. The leader and the society.
The problem is that there is Krieger and there is no collective Krieger. Because collective Krieger would end it all. I know how to retreat. If I face the stronger power, I always prefer to retreat and then to find the ways around or any other ways. If there is the hot conflict, I always prefer to end this hot conflict and then to see what can be done. Thank you very much for this openness to discuss these questions. And I really value that you, even being personally involved in this situation, I'm not, but you are, that you have enough openness to discuss these things on that level with me. And
thank you very much. I'm happy to discuss this subject in a real example, not as a theory or abstraction.
No, today we were talking about the real example. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.